Before I start, I just because I don't see you and it's kind of strange experience, I would like to ask you to write in the chat, who's watching, where do you guys watch from? Are you running a startup? So what do you do basically, so I can get a sense of who's watching right now. And I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna share some slides, and what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna walk you through some certain concepts and ideas with respect to creating this roadmap for your team. And those of you who are watching, if you're watching from okay, Blagoya from Drive Car, good to see you, brother. So this workshop is going to be relevant, I guess, as for a startup, but also for people who are working for corporate jobs, because it's a very general concepts and ideas. So hopefully everybody will get some ideas and inspiration. I will also ask you to do a number of exercises, practical exercises, in terms of setting the ground, setting the stage for creating a culture or creating a team which performs at a higher level. So good to see you, Matea, Andrea from Romania, Natalia is tuning in, policymaker, Ministry of Economic Development, Valentina, tip of yours. Okay, great, amazing. All right, so let's go on with it. So I'm going to try to share now my screen. Okay, please let me know if you guys see my screen. Not yet. Okay. Clicking at the button. Okay, technical team, can I have a little bit of support? I cannot share my screen at the moment. And if that's the case, that's fine. And we can just continue without slides, but I would definitely prefer if we can do that.
Hello, Stan.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So you are using Chrome browser, right?
Yes, I'm using Chrome browser. Yes.
And to the bottom, you see an icon with a screen like.
Yes.
If you click on that, what do you see?
I see share your screen, and then if I click share, I cannot click on the button share.
You need to click on the window. You need to select which window to use.
Okay, good. Let me see if that's gonna work.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you guys for your patience. Now let's see if I can get onto the presentation. Yes, can you guys see it now? Everybody can see my screen, right? Just say yes, and then I'm continuing with the presentation. Beautiful. Thank you so much, guys. Let's get on to it. And I'm gonna be coming back, and if you have any questions, please put them there. So today we'll speak about how to define your company roadmap, and I'm gonna point your attention on three very, I would say, intuitive, but also areas that we often forget as founders, as startup founders. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, this is kind of the picture that I had. I started my first company 8 years ago, and this was the picture that I had as entrepreneurs, as founders. We're these visionaries that are, seeing the whole picture, and we're connecting the dots, and we come up with solutions for problems that haven't been discovered, and we go around with these blazers and take pictures on Instagram, #hustle, #entrepreneurs, and it all feels kind of fancy, and it is kind of a really fun experience. And I love being an entrepreneur, don't get me wrong, but But it also comes with the other side of the story, which I think we don't talk so much about, which is basically the dark side of being an entrepreneur. And that's how I see being an entrepreneur, starting your company. It's not this fancy, cool environment. It could be, but at the end of the day, it's just you running into a jungle. You start a company, you run into the jungle immediately. It's this very difficult place. I mean, it's a very abundant place. You can do a lot of things, but your main task is to survive. Your main task is to find shelter, to find resources until you have a chance to thrive one day. Until you're big enough, you find the product market fit. As a matter of fact, companies being asked, and maybe some of you have seen this this survey before. Companies have been asked what was the biggest reason for you to fail, and they asked 120 companies, and most of them, I think 44% mentioned that they didn't manage to find a product market fit. And if you think about it, you can say, okay, that's the product market fit, but if we kind of dig deeper, there were some other factors that maybe impacted this experience and this failure in terms of the startups. Now, if you ask Google how many startups survive after a few years in the market, few years of existence, according to internet, as you see, I tried to find some survey to back it up with some academic data. I couldn't find any, but I think you all could agree with this number. Less than 1 out of 20 companies is going to be operating at the market. It doesn't mean they're going to be winning. They're going to be operating at the market after a few years of experience. And it's a pretty difficult statistic if you think about it. I mean, there's many different reasons for that. One of the things that I personally have struggled with, my first more serious business, I just started a company with somebody who had different value system than mine. We have different, we have similar passions, but our values, the beliefs that we have, the way we're doing things, were very, very difficult, very different. So about myself, some of you might have seen my profile, my background, but I'm a former movie producer who has turned into a productivity and performance coach and a startup mentor. I love going around, working with startups, helping them to get to the next level when it comes to performance and culture. And as every other entrepreneur, I can share a lot of stories. We're not going to focus on that, but this is, for example, an office where I used to sleep in Copenhagen when I started my consulting business, and I didn't have so much resources. At the same time, I've been doing all kind of stuff. This is me, my biggest investor, so to say. This is Radisson Hotels in Denmark, in Aarhus. So while I was building my business, I decided not to be needy in front of customers. In the first several months, I was working part-time as a dishwasher. So, I mean, being an entrepreneur is not always the fun thing. But then at the end of the day, I wasn't actually washing dishes. I was supporting my entrepreneurial journey. I was super aligned on what's the actual purpose behind what I do. And hopefully I can inspire you today to also look into this side of the story. Not only, what is the product you're building, but also what is the bigger why behind it? What is the impact that you're making? And can you define and align around a purpose where everybody from your team is super excited to come to work because you are all aligned around this passion, this purpose, and you share similar values so you can execute and create a sustainable business in the long run. And I want to ask you a question. I'm going to check the answers in the chat. What would you like to get out of this session? If now is the end of this session, 45 minutes later, 50 minutes later, what are some questions that you would like to have answered? What are some of your expectations? And while I'm doing this, I'll get back to to the platform to see some answers in the chat. Okay, Maya. Hello, Maya, Blagoya, Mateja. How are you guys doing? How often do you release new products? Rock, I would love to answer your question. What do you mean by that? Can you give me some clarity? Once again, my question before I get into the actual content is, what would you like to get out of this session? What would be your, optimal dream session if it's ended right now? Okay, I'll get back to the chat then. As you can see, I'm navigating technical inspiration. All right, Andrea, let's get into it. Hopefully, I'll try to share a few of the tools that I've been using with my own team and with other teams that have been really helpful into starting to define and to structure culture. So, all right, let's get into it. Here's my co-founder, so to say, or partner, who helped me to develop. Together, we developed the so-called Perform methodology. Cristobal is the CEO of Startup Wise Guys, the leading B2B startup accelerator in Europe, now also in Western Balkans. So I'm sure you've met some of these red guys red dressed. And I've been a mentor at Startup Wise Guys for the last 4 or 5 years right now. And one thing me and Cristobal realized was, a lot of the teams that they're getting on board are really good into building products, sometimes being really good into generating sales, finding customers, creating opportunities. However, one thing that I think many startups, not just from these batches, have been not so good about it, is prioritizing culture. So together we decided, okay, let's make it simple for founders. And this is something I used myself. I created it myself. I was sitting in a Starbucks one afternoon and trying to figure out how can I simplify culture. And we developed it now for the last 2 years, traveling, working with startups, getting some feedback, trying to get the best tools out there and put them into now a book, which is going to be coming out in a month and a half. So all the learnings, all the things. What are the best founders in New Europe working on? And so they created this culture of peak performers, not just business results, but actually a place where people are excited to be part of. And today I wanna lead you through these 3 specific things: values, responsibilities, and priorities. Just to keep it really, really simple. And another question I'm going to ask you while you guys in the chat is, what are some of the core values of your team right now? If you have been talking about values, what are some of the core values in the team? So let me just see the chat if. All right, suggestions for organization, coronavirus. Some okay, good. Values, transparency. I think there is not a book that works everywhere. Always for everyone. Everyone is writing a new startup book. Yes, everybody's writing a new startup book. Hopefully, this one will be a book that people can connect to. Core values: integrity, collaboration, outside the box. Thank you, guys. I'm gonna get back to the presentation. So, when we talk about values, I initially really thought values is something. You just need it for hiring. You work for a company, you have the values. So when you put an ad, it's helpful for people to see what the company stands for, but nobody knows the values. In fact, I live in Denmark, and I did a workshop once with a large corporate, and we spoke about purpose and values, and I asked the guys, okay, so what's the values of the company? And I think the whole room was silent and quiet, but there was one guy who just raised his hand and said, well, we do have values, but they're written somewhere in the, on the webpage. 50 people, nobody knew the values, not even the head of HR who was part of the workshop. And I think it's a lot more practical to define and talk about the values than we sometimes think. This is the co-founder of Airbnb, within weeks of Y Combinator, we were already talking about purpose and values way before our first hire. And I think values are more, you can see them as an operating system. So every company has different culture, different type of values. What happens in a company like Amazon is going to be so much different than and the way things are run in Pixar animations, for example. All these operating systems, set of values, set of behaviors, set of way we do things, they operate great. But I'm sure some of you like Windows, some of you like Apple, and so on and so forth. So it's really about and another thing, as you see, the guy from Airbnb, and I completely agree with him. A lot of founders, especially early stage founders, they speak about, we're going to talk about values, but when we start scaling. And I've spoken to many founders, which are, now they got the funding. Maybe they're 10 people and they need to scale to 20 so they can bring the product to the next level. And they're like, oh fuck, we really fucked up. We never spend time on culture. We never prioritize talking about this and having these conversations. It's not difficult. It's simple, but you need to prioritize culture. And I'm going to share some things of some suggestions and ideas. I'm sure you guys also have a lot of great ideas. So hopefully we can get inspiring each other to come up with good ideas. So let me give an example. I actually like Apple because their values and behaviors are really structured. It's very simple to understand them. It's 7 set of philosophies. And if you look into the second one, for example, we believe in the simple, not the complex. It is very simple to understand. Either you're applying for a job, you're an investor, you're a customer, you know what these guys are standing for. Cristobal, my co-author, he hates Apple, he hates Mac, he has Windows, but he also agrees that, okay, this is pretty clearly defined. It's not for me, but so setting up your values, they have to be speaking to you, and I can speak a lot about values also from observations, from my own experience. There's different approaches through our interviews with many founders from the New Europe region. There's different approaches into setting up the values. Some founders prefer to be the kind of the leaders, so they'll come in and they'll be the ones that define the values, and then people who join in the team will have to kind of adapt to those values. There's different founders, again, successful companies, that prefer to involve the new people into creating this culture. And I think a very important thing to have in mind is this is a process. Defining your values is a process. It can take months sometimes. So you need to start small. Here's another example. This is Zappos. It's been acquired by Amazon. There's a book about it as well. What I like about these values are they're very personalized for their own culture, and also they have a specific set of behaviors. So this is, for example, number 4, the value, be adventurous, creative, and open-minded. So for each value, they have a description. Because, I'm going to give you an example with the Startup Wise Guys. One of the values of Startup Wise Guys is no bullshit approach. I think they actually worked on it right now, but no bullshit approach. So what does it mean? You have to define what does it mean for your company, right? For me, no bullshit approach might mean one thing, for you something else. In this case, what does it mean to be adventurous, creative, and open-minded? And these are really, really relevant meetings and conversations you can have with your team, just to say, hey guys, what do we stand for? Sometimes we speak about what do we want the values to be, and everybody, I've been writing a lot of times, honesty, transparency, integrity, and I think they're very valuable, loyalty. But I think another angle to look into that is to say, if we observe our behavior in the last few months, if we observe our behavior in the last few months, what are we doing? What do we prioritize? I mean, there's a lot of things that are, you know, priority for us, but what are the things that we prioritize most when we're taking decisions? What do we want to prioritize? But you need to kind of look backwards and see what have we been observing that we prioritize at the moment, and then you start it from there. Yeah, I love Tony Hughes' Taking Delivering Happiness. Yes, it's a great book, and it's a lot of you know, great examples on defining values. Okay, so I'm going to turn this one to you right now. I'll give you a little exercise. Hope you have a pen and paper, but everybody's digital, so you can also do it on a spreadsheet. If your company was an animal, what animal would it be? That's my question. If your company was an animal, what animal would it be? And by the way, when you are thinking about the animal, it could be anything. It could be fictional. It could be something from methodology. By the way, there's more animals than eagle and lion and tiger. Just for you that you know, there's more animals. So try to be creative. Try to think about what is the animal and why would you pick this animal. So I'm going to give you now a couple of minutes and see when you guys are ready in the chat, and we're going to continue with the presentation. So I'm going back to the chat right now. Okay, I'm actually curious now. Katya said octopus, Maya said bird, and jaguar. Giraffe, beautiful. We have a whole zoo here. And now the second question to those of you who have finished is, why did you pick this? What are the strengths of this animal? Very shortly. And what are also the weaknesses? What are the flaws? Any more animals? Okay, Matea said jaguar. The strength that doesn't fear danger. It's slim and super flexible. Darwin giraffe theory, adaptability, connecting, adaptable, too much hands. Octopus, too much hands. Is that a strength or a weakness? Obviously it's adaptable, but it can get stuck, right? If it's going all around the place. And teamwork gets everywhere, super organized. Natalia, what is a weakness of being an ant? What is a flaw, potential flaw? Ben, owl. Okay, why'd you pick owl? It can be too much. Okay, right. Too many of them. Flaw of an ant is being small, having many enemies. Okay, guys, for the sake of time, I'm going to continue with the next exercise. Oh, okay, flaw of an ant being small, many enemies, including humans. That's interesting. I'm curious to know more about your startup. Matea, fast-paced, so difficult to follow and keep up with it. So that was the jaguar. Difficult to follow and keep up with it. Do you mean, Matea, difficult to follow the founders? Or for your customers? Like, what do you mean by that? Always wise, strong, watcher, etc. Good luck here in Europe. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for engaging, sharing the animals, and based on that, we're gonna actually go to the next question, which is, could you, now that we have a little bit of discussion, could you define what are the top values that you guys stand for the most? What are the five values of your startup? If you look into the previous 1 or 2 months, or just observing the behavior previously, what are the things that we prioritize highest? And I just want to add also something. Sometimes we're using these words which are kind of a little bit too general. So if you can be a bit more creative and think about some specific things that click for you. I'll give you an example. I did a workshop in Estonia before the lockdown, and one startup founder said, I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, Glengarry Glen Rose, or at least this scene with Alec Baldwin where he says, always be closing, ABC, always be closing. Coffee is for closers. So basically there's this scene and this specific line, coffee is for closers. So he wanted to set this as a company value for his company, because everybody loves the movie, and what they ended up doing is one of their values was coffee is for closers. So I'm not saying this is going to be a value in my team, but that was something really personal, that the language really works for them. So think about it as well. Yeah, the movie is amazing, Matea. It's a little bit over the top, but great acting and some really good points, especially this speech. Yeah, well, nice, good movie indeed. Okay, let's see some of these values you guys shared. Top value, courage, never fear. Fear is the mind killer. Nice one, Maya. High trust, flexible adaptability, hardworking, and good quality. Nice. More specific, bringing the joy. Matea, I'm actually curious to know about this. Top value, playful and fun, bringing the joy. Why did you pick this? Why is that super important for you? We just had a panel at the main stage before this workshop, and had a little bit of a conversation about this. That sometimes we are so busy trying to build a startup and we forget to prioritize fun and playfulness and happiness. So very, very great point. High trust, flexible adaptability, hardworking, and good quality. All right, thank you so much, guys. And I know most of you probably had these conversations with your team. I personally have been doing the mistake not to do it, because I assume in my head, oh, people know what we stand for. And my previous boss, like I was working for a company, the last time I worked for a company was 2013 or 14. And he had this mantra, assumption is the mother of all fuck ups. And I've been a person who did this mistake myself, not communicating clearly with my team what do we stand for, what are the priorities. I can give you a massive amount of examples, but yes, I'll keep that for some other session. Matea is saying, yes, I'm urban designer, so I do a lot of work with communities globally and in deprived areas. So always we tend to bring the joy to people, always also empower them, so they know how to find it in challenging times. Thank you, Matea. This is such a beautiful thing that you do. Hopefully more of us will get this energy and spread it forward. Another thing that I think is really important we don't have so much time to go in depth with that, but also to talk about the purpose. Talk about why do you do what you do as a startup. And it's often kind of easy to focus on the product or focus on the what. When I ask a startup, what is the purpose of the company? Usually they'll say, create exit to Amazon in 5 years, have a 1 billion, be the leading provider, be this, be that. But not so often they'll share with me specifically and concretely, why do you do what you do? And I just want to share with you a story. My accountant in Denmark onboarded me as a client because the first thing I saw on his webpage, somebody recommended the guy, and he was like, hey, this guy is great, you should talk to him, he's a good accountant. So I go to his webpage, and the first thing that I see is I help small business owners sleep better at night. And I was like, that's the guy I want to work with. At the time, I'm this small business owner who hates accounting, who hates all this kind of a hustle, and I don't know what to do. And if I call the accountant, they're gonna invoice me. So he's living it. It's not just a bullshit kind of message. He lives it. He once came to visit me in Copenhagen because he lives in another city. And he told me, Stoyan, I saw that you didn't register your new address, your personal address. Can I do it for you? He spent an hour helping me with my personal address, nothing to do with his work. So, but he's very aligned on why he do what he does. And I gotta tell you guys, from my experience, when you start selling the why, I don't care if it's your customers, I don't care if it's your investors, it's a lot more likely you get some excitement and emotions from them. So it's probably a really good discussion, when we finish this whole amazing Podim experience to bring your team together, or maybe on a Zoom call. I don't know if you're socially distanced, but just to have a discussion about why do we do what we do? Why? What's the actual impact that we want to make? And that could also help you to onboard people that are more qualified than you're able to afford them as a founder. Why people come work for you if they can get the paycheck in the corporate? It's apparently it's about passion, it's about excitement, it's about purpose. Rock is saying that's our why. Maybe we need some work, but for now, we believe there's always another way of doing things, challenging what is considered standard, exploring what is considered explored, while maintaining integrity, responsibility, and quality. This is what makes us tick. Rock, I would agree with you. I think you're leaning into a good direction. I think you need to make it really clear. In some ways, this could be many companies with this specific why that you shared. So refining it a little bit and making it maybe super catchy, like 1-2 sentences, could be something that can bring it to the next level. Thank you for sharing. I'm going back to the presentation, guys, with the second thing. But I highly recommend you have these conversations, not just once. Hey guys, let's have now is COVID time. Now is the time to refocus, realign with what's our purpose, what do we stand for, what are our values, and I'm telling you, it brings some amazing discussions if you haven't done it before. Coming back to the presentation with the second element, basically, namely responsibilities. And remember the perform methodology at the beginning of what I showed you? This is one of the areas from the perform methodology: responsibilities and ownership. At the beginning, we actually called it roles and responsibilities. How do we define what are the roles and what are the responsibilities connected to them? So, you're the CTO, she's the CEO, he's the COO. We all have these fancy titles, the president of the company, whatever you call yourself. But the truth is, we know what's the name of the role, especially early stage. What is it that we don't often talk about clearly? We don't define it. Is actually the responsibilities. What responsibilities do you have as a founder? Do you have a clear picture of all the commitments? And are you aware who is doing what in the company, in the team? Are you aware who is the last person in command? Okay, guys, so who's doing the marketing in the company? It's Michael and Maria. And who's the one that we have to ask whether things are, not delivered, if they're not delivered on time? Who's the last person in command? So what I want to show you is a very simple exercise, which is called mapping your responsibilities, or role mapping. And I love this exercise. I just did it actually with my new team last week, and it's exceptional. It's amazing. It's being created. I got inspired from it by a guy called Eric Meets in his Business Freedom Academy. But what I like about this is the way you separate responsibilities has this factor of, do I like what I do? And I'm going to show you what it's super simple. You can do it for half an hour, and we can start doing it right now, basically. Um, because often we like you hire somebody or you have a co-founder, and we talk about strengths. Hey, she's really good with coding. He's really good with copywriting, so he will do the copywriting. And it's okay. At the beginning, we gotta do everything. You gotta do the account. I hate accounting. You gotta do the accounting. You gotta do the legal stuff. You gotta do everything. Everybody has different strengths, and you just focus on where you're strong at, right? But again, you need to aspirationally look into what are the things that I love to do. What am I good at? What are the things I love to do? And can we create a team, with my co-founders, with maybe the people that we want to hire, where everybody spends the majority of our time in things that we are good at and we love to do. This is the real game. This business freedom. And sure, the first couple of years, maybe the first few months, I don't know, you might have to do a lot of things you don't want to do. But aspirationally, you want to focus on this sweet spot, or so-called the zone. So here's the exercise, super, super simple. I'll show you also an example. You can open a spreadsheet, or you can just get a piece of paper and write it down. You write down all your commitments, everything. So, if you say sales, write down follow up on leads, lead generation, inbound, whatever. Like, you just write all the different specific things that you're responsible for it. You have some sort of commitment in it. And that's an example from a team I've done this with. It's super simple example, actually. And what you do when you write all the commitments is you mark it with different colors. So with green, this is the zone. I love doing these things, and I'm good at it. With blue, it's fine. I'm good at it. It doesn't really give me chills, but it's okay. And then with red, it's like, I have to do this and I hate it. I don't like to do this. We should hire somebody at the first resort. Or maybe I'm not good at it. I'm really bad at it, but it's my responsibility. And what you do is you just open a spreadsheet to begin with. So here's an example. The CEO loves to do lead generation, team and task management, account management, customer relations. And the CTO is, having some things that he's responsible or she's responsible. And there is obviously one area that I think the CEO was also red at it. It's not pointed here, but they found out, okay, this is one area that both of us don't like to do. We're not good at it. We need to hire somebody, or we need to get an intern, or we need to restructure somehow. Now, I do this with my team. I've done it. I'm a partner in a company for mastermind experiences, and I've done that with my team once, and it was crazy. The kind of assumptions you make. That, for example, I hate sending spend half an hour, 1 hour to structure a really good email and send it to sponsors or whatever. I love to talk, give a call, whatever. And I've been doing this for quite a bit of time. We were trying to sponsor a conference, reaching out to sponsors. Apparently now it's not going to be a physical one, but we were trying to reach out for sponsors, and I'll be the one just structuring, doing the research. And I called my co-founder, and I was like, dude, this is just dragging my energy. And we did this exercise, and for him it was a green. And in my head it was like, it's such a tedious job, nobody wants to do it. And we found a lot of those places where somebody is responsible for something. For them it's red or blue, and somebody else has the same thing as a green. It's like something they love to do, and they're actually good at it. So this is a very good exercise to do. Maybe some of you right now are doing it. Maybe some of you are taking notes. But hopefully it can help you after this conference, just to sit with your team. You can do it digitally and have a really good and productive discussion, and maybe restructure, find some specific areas where you can maybe either look for somebody like an intern or a trainee or a new person to hire when you potentially get a funding. Let me just get back to the main room to see what's going on. Thank you for your patience with my technical things. All right. So my assess, okay, my why, help my clients to achieve their biggest dreams. When I say COO, yeah, Eric, awesome guy. Absolutely, Eric is fantastic. One of my favorite speakers. A lot of depth about business, about storytelling. Go check him out. A question: how often should one make this activity with the team? Once or every few months? Sometimes it changes in time. Thank you. Brilliant question, Matea. I actually agree with you. It should be every few months. Don't overdo it. Definitely do it every time you get a new person on board. So you're onboarding somebody, you kind of present them where you are maybe, and then you ask them to do this exercise, and you have a one-on-one discussion with them. But every couple of months, when you feel there's a need for it, have a team session and just review where you are. Sometimes responsibilities are changing because of your work, but sometimes it's also your passions are changing. You're doing something for a while, and you're like, hey, I've been doing this, but I need to move it. I want to change it. Maya is asking Eric who I'm going to write it here. Eric admits. I believe that's how you write it. Yes. He's great. He's great. You can find him on YouTube. Speaks a lot about a lot of different topics. Okay, so another tool which I would like to suggest as a complementary tool for this one, and I would say very helpful as well to do. So this one is about figuring out strengths and passions and whether we have the right responsibilities. The other one is more about maybe some of you have heard it. I'm going to write it down here. RASI metrics. Again, it's a very spreadsheet, super easy, not technically in any way, complicated. So let me just get back to it. So RASI is pretty much like this. It's for you to define, looking into projects, looking into the different responsibilities. Let's say you've done the role mapping, the responsibility mapping. Now you're like, okay, let's look at our projects. Let's look at all the different things, and based on this responsibility mapping, define who is the accountable person. Accountable person in this framework means the person who is the last in command. So the person you're going to point fingers at if they didn't deliver on time. The person that's taking the final decision, they're the one in command, they have to deliver. Now, responsible in this framework is the person that's actually getting it done. So for example, I can be accountable for a social media campaign. I'm the one that has to deliver, but then there's a junior marketing person that will actually execute. You can be accountable and responsible, but only one person can be accountable. So you can be accountable and responsible at the same time. There can be more people than one that are responsible, but only one person is accountable. And this creates such a great culture of ownership. I interviewed the founder of the biggest co-working space in the Balkans called Puzzle. I think they have, before COVID, they had between 500 to 1,000 people, in the co-working space. And he said, my whole company is racy. So how does it look? Very simple. You just, this is again an example from the Startup Wise Guys teams. As you can see here, the CEO, they had a whole discussion with the whole team, and they figure out, okay, here are the areas that I'm going to be accountable. Like one person accountable everywhere. For example, sales, there's many people who are responsible for sales, but at the end of the day, the CEO is the one that's taking ownership and is accountable for that. And of course, the other two colors, which are also quite important in terms of communication, is first of all, C, consulted. So who is the person we need to consult with? Who's like an advisor? Is the CEO? Like, for example, look at the content production. Before something is posted in this company, the CAO and CMO are consulting or just asking for a decision from the CEO. And the last one, the green one, is I, which stands for informed. Or basically, who do I want to keep in the loop? Sometimes you just want to inform people, but you don't have to inform everybody for everything, right? Like CC everybody on the email or put them on the Slack. Like there are some certain things that are, lower decision making level, so you don't need to know about it. It's a very, very good tool. Again, you just sit down together, you clarify it. Maybe every second month you have a discussion, or when you feel like, okay, I think our responsibilities are really messed up, we need to have a discussion. You said you're the one that's responsible and accountable for sales, but seems like you're not actually taking ownership. Let's have a discussion. Let's have the real discussions. And this is one of the main areas as well, like creating a culture of effective communication where we are not afraid to tell the boss what's going on. And everybody is honest in a nice way. You don't have to be an asshole. You can be honest. You can share what's going on in a good and nice way, create a culture of feedback. And one thing that was really important and interesting for me is by interviewing all these dozens of founders, like maybe over 50 people we've been talking to, like really peak performance founders from the region, is that they all have some sort of a structure for communication consistently. Some of them will do one-on-ones with everybody from the team every second week. Some of them will do, weekly feedback sessions. And you discuss, hey, let's see, what did we achieve? What did we learn? What can we improve? So everybody has any kind of a structure. You got to try it out and test it and stuff. But creating culture of consistent and effective communication can also help you to be better into taking ownership. Let me just get back to see if there's any comments, any questions before we get into the last area. Okay, where is it? There you go. Okay. No, I don't. Matea? No, don't know it. Okay, good. I'm coming back then for the final piece, the third piece of the puzzle in terms of creating the roadmap. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. But I'm coming back and I will continue with the last part of it. So we spoke about values, purpose and values, creating this framework in terms of culture, defining culture from very early stages actually. So when it's time for you to scale, you have a smoother ride. Then we spoke about responsibilities, not just the roles you have, but the exact responsibilities. And we focused on not just the strengths, but also the passions. What do we love to do? And can we have a culture, and can we have a responsibility sharing where everybody is doing majority of their time things that they love to do and they're good at, which is an art. It's not a science, but with small iterations, you can create a pretty good result. And now the third piece of the puzzle is priorities. So what's that mean? Well, one of the things that is the most unsexy for founders is to plan. People love to do stuff. People love to execute. People love to build products, and everybody has their own strengths and passions, but it's not. Startups are notorious for working long hours, 12, 13, 16-hour days, sometimes 100-hour weeks. At the same time, also notorious for not being consistent in organizing, planning, and prioritizing. Busy is not productive. It's about defining the key results and pointing the attention of yourself and your team into focusing into delivering these results and saying no to everything else. This is David Allen, the creator of the GTD methodology, Getting Things Done. I met him last year at a conference in Graz, and that's what he said. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. What defines the peak performers from the rest is that they're extremely good in saying no to things. Extremely good in saying no to things. And I want you to think about it this way. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. I want you to think about the opportunity cost of deciding to do whatever it is. I think David Allen also was the one who said, the problem is your mind doesn't have one. There's way too much things coming in your direction. And what you need is focus. But you can't focus, you can't be throwing arrows everywhere unless you know what's the target. So I want to challenge you, I want to inspire you. If there's one thing you get from the whole workshop, the whole session, is block time every single day to plan your next day. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there's different structures, different systems. I don't care what is your system. Put 30 minutes in your calendar at the end of every day where you review the day, you track the progress, and you focus on what are the most important objectives for the next day. Not activities. Not often you speak to people, to founders, and they'll say, here's my to-do list. Tomorrow, block, sales, team. What does that mean? You got to be concrete, you got to be measurable, you got to be tangible. Reach out to 20 potential customers. Publish the blog post. So always when you plan, you wanna start with the end in mind, and you build it backwards. What is the end result of my actions? So basically, every single day, I see it like this. When you go to a restaurant, I don't go much to restaurants these days, unfortunately. Probably you guys too. But imagine you're going to a restaurant. The waiter comes to you and says, "Hey, what would you like to eat?" And what do you say? You say, "I can get a pizza," or whatever. I usually say I want a menu, because I don't know all the options. And if you're planning from your head, if you start your own day just by intuitively planning from your head, that's how you're living your life. That's how you're wasting your time in your startup. You don't know all the options. You don't have the capacity to kind of weight all the options. So what you want to do every single day is you want to do a list. What are all the things I potentially might have to do? Let me look at all the project, all the progress. Let me put them on a piece of paper. All right, based on all these 40 items here, what are the most important results I need to make sure, and my team needs to make sure they're done by tomorrow? And let's be concrete, let's be tangible. So you do this yourself. Everybody can do it. You can use paper, you can do a spreadsheet, whatever. You can use some fancy app. But at the end of the day, you know what's your top objectives. You create your targets. From the whole menu, you choose the targets that are the most important. And you focus the attention of you and your team there. Have a small discussion with your team. What's your outcomes? What's your outcomes? Okay, good. Amazing. We aligned. Let's rock. And let's focus on activities that will give us these outcomes. In fact, David Allen was the guy who said, outcomes and actions are the zeros and ones of productivity. What's the actual outcome? And what's the action steps to get it done? So it's the most important things. A great tool talking about strategic planning could be OKRs. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with that. So when you do a strategy session in terms of planning, I highly recommend, but keep it simple. It's became really famous, being used by Google. Many of the founders actually in Eastern Europe are using OKRs. It's a great tool if you are doing it sort of like if you're starting to scale, especially. The idea behind OKRs is to structure your goals and build it backwards. So the same kind of process. You create, or you kind of define what is the key objective and what are the key results connected to it. The key objective is something that's not so tangible in this specific framework. So it's more like a core area where you focus your attention, and the key results is how do we actually make sure that we focus on this. So if it's like grow our sales in Estonia, the key results could be demo meetings with 25 corporates in Tallinn. I don't know, maybe 200, like, but you know, you get the point. It's the more measurable. And then there's the next part. After key results, it's the, you know, the action steps, the step-by-step, how do we get it done? But whatever system you use, the important thing is to do it consistently. Every single day you need to plan, and you need to review your plans, and you review your plans with the new information that's coming in. It's a process. It's not a one-time thing. So hopefully I can inspire you guys. And if you have any questions, or if you want to know some systems and things, I'll be happy to tune in into that. Just because we're getting close to the ending of the time, this is something I use personally, Cristobal used personally with his team. I do it with my team every single week. Super simple tool. You can take a screenshot, or it's actually quite intuitive, or just text me in the chat or find me on email. I'm going to send it to you. So what do you do? Well, basically, it's a tool to measure performance, but it's also very intuitive. It's subjective in many ways. So you ask all your teammates, hey guys, from 1 to 10, how do you feel did we perform in each of these 7 areas? Just be honest. What do you think from 1 to 10? I mean, you can color this, right? Or you can just ask them to do the numbers. But from 1 to 10, how did you feel we performed? Okay, Michael says effective planning is at 8, and I think it's 4. We need to have a discussion. Oh, everybody thinks that focus and execution is really low. We need to do something. What can we do? Optimal energy is super low. We've been having a product launch. Okay, that makes sense. Now that the product is out, we need to make sure we focus more into taking breaks, eating healthy, doing those kind of things. So it's a super simple tool, and I highly recommend you guys to check it out and to see if that might be something for you. Let me get back to the chat right now. Let's see if there is any other questions. All right. Afterwards, can you share some thoughts on what Scott was addressing in the pattern on time ownership? Yes. Let's see. We only have a couple of minutes right now. I hope you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. Find me there or send me an email. I'd love to connect. Love having you here. Matea, thank you for all those thoughts. Time ownership. I think what Scott wanted to say is something similar to what I speak about. Basically, taking ownership in terms of being intentional about the way you spend your time. Even prioritizing breaks. You know, you go on a vacation with your spouse. What is your outcome? What's your intention? Do you want to party? Do you want to have fun? Do you want to recharge? Because based on your intention, based on your outcome, you will pick different activities, right? And it's the same in your startup. I think that's what Scott meant with this. Brilliant, gotta know your target. I know a very good system, highly proactive planner by Brendan. I love Brendan, by the way. Go check him out. Great guy, peak performer, just amazing guy. So absolutely agree with you. Is time blocking really possible, not just the urban myth? Thank you, Maya. This is such a brilliant question. I am time blocking every single day. I didn't have a chance to show you how I'm blocking time every day, but my whole day is scheduled in my calendar. And right now, for example, this morning I was working on my book. I need to block it. I hate to write the book. I like to talk about it. I like to research, but I don't like to write. So I have to block time in my calendar and say in these 3 hours, This is my intention. This is my objective. I'm only focused on writing the book. And you can use that in your own, startup journey. It's past 30 right now. I just want to say thank you so much, guys, for being here. Love having you here. We have to wrap it up right now. Please make sure to connect and to be with me. And of course, if you're interested to know more about these tools, you can go and check out our upcoming book right now. It's right now on 60% discount. We're finishing it, and we'll appreciate any support because we are bringing on board a senior editor and a designer. So if anybody is interested, you can go get the book for 60% on a pre-order, and I'll be super grateful, and we'll send you the book in a couple of months when it's ready. That being said, theperformbook.com. That being said, I'm getting back to the software here to say final goodbye. Thank you so much, Maya. It means a lot to me. I hope what we've been sharing has been useful. Please send me a message on LinkedIn or an email. I'm super reachable, and let me know what was one thing that was most important for you from this workshop, from this session. And I love to connect with all of you. You've been amazing, super engaged. Thank you for your patience for with technical adjustment at the beginning. So thank you, Pietro, Jelena. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think we will have to wrap it up now here. Here's once again my name. Find me on LinkedIn, and let's be in touch. Let me know what is the one thing that was a key takeaway for you, and one thing that you start implementing from now on. And that being said, I just want to wish you guys an amazing day. Enjoy your amazing experience at Podim. Thank you so much, Podim, for bringing us all together. And have an amazing day. We'll be in touch.